Back in the day, dinner wasn't about takeout or fancy recipes. It was about filling bellies after long days of hard work. Factory jobs, farm fields, railroad tracks. These meals came from rough hands and tight budgets. They were made from scraps, leftovers, whatever you had lying around. But they did the job. They fed families, stretched paychecks, and brought people together at the end of the day. Today, most of these dishes are long forgotten, pushed aside by modern food trends and store-bought convenience. But they've got stories to tell. And lessons we can still learn today, especially when times get tough. So let's step back into Grandma's kitchen and look at 21 working man's dinners that fed America through the Great Depression. 21. Skunk Stew. You probably didn't think we'd start with skunk. But during the Dust Bowl, when crops failed and meat was hard to find, folks got creative. Really creative. If you were lucky and brave, you might catch a skunk near the barn. The trick? You had to de-skunk it, remove the scent glands before anything else. That was non-negotiable. After that, it was just like any other stew. Clean the meat, boil it with potatoes, carrots, onions, whatever you had on hand. It wasn't anyone's favorite, but it was food. It got people through the worst of times. And when your stomach's empty, even skunk can feel like supper. 20. Crispy grasshoppers. Believe it or not, grasshoppers were once dinner. When fields were overrun and money was tight, people turned the tables. They ate the pests eating their crops. Catching them was a family job. Kids would run around with buckets while parents got the oil hot. After a quick rinse, the grasshoppers went into the pan. No fancy seasoning, just salt, maybe some vinegar if you had it. They came out golden and crunchy. Some folks even liked the nutty flavor. It sounds strange now, but back then it was high protein, no waste eating. Nothing went to waste, not even bugs. 19th, blood gravy on biscuits. This one's not for the faint of heart. On slaughter days, farmers used everything, including the blood. Fresh blood from pigs or cows was mixed with flour, milk, and spices to make a thick, rich gravy. Poured over biscuits or potatoes, it was actually full of nutrients, especially iron, and kept people full for hours. Nowadays, most folks would turn their nose up at it. But in the Depression, you didn't waste a drop. And this gravy? It was survival on a plate. 18th. Beef heart stew. Back then, people didn't just eat steaks. They ate the whole animal, heart included. Beef heart was cheap, lean, and full of flavor if you cooked it slow and right. They'd trim it, chop it, then brown the pieces in a big pot. Then came the broth, maybe some carrots or parsnips if you had them, and a few hours of slow simmering. It wasn't fancy, but it filled you up, and it tasted better than you'd think. Just another example of using what you had and making it work. 17th. Braised rabbit with root vegetables. Before supermarkets, dinner sometimes came from the backyard. Rabbits were common, easy to catch, and perfect for feeding a hungry family. After a morning hunt, you'd skin and clean the rabbit, give it a quick sear in a cast-iron pan, then braise it slow with carrots, onions, and turnips. The meat turned tender and juicy, and the whole pot smelled like home. It was the kind of meal you shared. Anyone who walked through the door got a bowl. That was the rule. It's rare now, but for folks who remember, rabbit stew meant survival and pride in knowing how to cook what you could catch. 16. Hoppin' John, black-eyed peas and rice. This dish goes way back, all the way to African-American roots in the South. Black-eyed peas and rice made a filling, cheap, and lucky meal. Yep, lucky. Folks still eat it on New Year's Day, hoping it brings good fortune. You'd soak the peas, boil them till tender, then mix them with rice and maybe a bit of bacon or fatback if you had it. Season it with salt, pepper, and a little onion. That's it. It was simple, hearty, and kept people going. In hard times, Hoppin' John wasn't just tradition. It was smart, affordable eating. 15. Pork neck bones and gravy. Neck bones weren't fancy, but they were packed with flavor and dirt cheap. You'd brown them in a hot pan until they smelled amazing, Then simmer them low and slow with chopped onions and water. As it cooked, the meat softened, and the liquid turned into a rich, savory gravy. That gravy got poured over rice or mashed potatoes, or even soaked up with plain white bread. Sometimes you added a little flour or cornstarch to thicken it, but most times it thickened on its own. It was messy, it was bony, but it was real food, and no one walked away hungry. 14. Chicken livers with onions and peppers. Livers aren't everyone's favorite, but back then they were a budget lifesaver. Loaded with iron and protein, chicken livers were cheap because most folks didn't want them. That made them perfect for working-class families. You'd fry them up in a skillet with sliced onions and bell peppers, maybe garlic or hot sauce if you had it. Serve it with rice and you had dinner in under 30 minutes. It was bold in flavor, easy on the wallet, and stretched into next day's lunch too. Not bad for something most people overlooked. 13. Milk toast. When money was tight and nobody felt like cooking, milk toast came to the rescue. It was exactly what it sounds like: a slice of toasted bread soaked in warm milk with a little butter. Sometimes folks added a pinch of sugar or cinnamon, sometimes salt and pepper. It depended on what you had or what mood you were in. It was soft, warm, and surprisingly filling. Kids, sick folks, the elderly. Everybody ate it. Today it might sound plain, but during the Depression it felt like comfort in a bowl. 12. Bubble and Squeak. This one came from across the pond, straight out of old British kitchens. But American families picked it up during hard times because it made the most of leftovers. Mashed potatoes, chopped cabbage, and any stray veggies got mixed together and fried until crispy. You'd press the mixture into a hot pan and let it cook until the outside browned up nice. It was cheap, used everything in the fridge, and tasted better than it looked. The name came from the sounds it made in the pan. Bubble and Squeak. Funny name. Serious thrift. 11th. Stuffed bell peppers. Stuffed peppers were dinner and a strategy. You could take just 1 pound of ground beef and feed 5 or 6 people if you did it right. The trick? Mix that meat with rice, a spoonful of tomato paste, some dried herbs, and let the peppers hold it all together. After filling the peppers, you'd line them up in a baking dish and pour whatever sauce you had, tomato, broth, or even just seasoned water, over the top. Bake until everything's bubbling and tender. It was meat, starch, and veggies in one. No side dish needed. And best of all, you could double the batch for leftovers. 10. Creamed tuna on egg noodles. This was a pantry miracle. When meat was gone and payday was days away, you could still pull together creamed tuna. A can of tuna, some milk, butter, and flour made the base. Then you tossed it all with wide egg noodles and a scoop of frozen peas. It wasn't fancy, but it was hot, filling, and cheap. Kids liked it because it was creamy and soft. Adults liked it because it got them through tight spots. And because everything came from the shelf or freezer. If you had a little garlic or black pepper, even better. But you didn't need much to make it work. 9. Hamburger gravy on mashed potatoes. This one's a classic. You'd brown up a pound of ground beef in a skillet, then stir in a spoonful of flour right into the drippings. Add some milk or water, keep stirring, and boom, you've got gravy. Serve it over hot mashed potatoes, from a box or from scratch, and you've got a diner-style meal right at home. Frozen peas were the go-to side. Some folks mixed them right in, others kept them separate. Either way, it was hot, salty, and satisfying. And on the table in 20 minutes. 8. Lazy cabbage roll, casserole. All the flavor of cabbage rolls, without the work. You didn't have to boil leaves or roll anything, just layer chopped cabbage with ground beef, cooked rice, onions, and tomato sauce in a baking dish. Throw it in the oven and let it all cook down together. The cabbage got tender, the rice soaked up the sauce, and the beef flavored the whole thing. Some added a splash of vinegar or even sour cream on top for a little tang. It didn't look pretty, but it tasted like Sunday dinner. and it made enough to feed a crowd, or stretch into a few days. 7. Canned Tamale Pie. This was Tex-Mex meets pantry survival. You browned ground beef, stirred in canned corn, tomatoes, and maybe a can of beans if you had one. A sprinkle of chili powder gave it a kick. Then you poured it into a dish and covered it with cornbread batter. Straight from the box. Bake until golden and bubbly. What came out was sweet, spicy, savory, and ready to feed a family. Some folks added shredded cheese or crushed crackers on top. Others just scooped it straight from the pan. Either way, it was fast, easy, and surprisingly comforting. 6. Breaded veal or pork cutlets. When payday felt far away, but you wanted something that looked like payday, these cutlets did the trick. You took thin slices of veal or pork, whatever was cheapest, dipped them in flour, then egg, then breadcrumbs. Into a hot skillet they went, sizzling till golden and crisp. They weren't thick or fancy, but they tasted like something special. The breading soaked up seasoning, and the meat stayed tender inside. Serve them with mashed potatoes, maybe instant, maybe homemade, and a little gravy if you had some. Quick to cook, easy to love. 5. Macaroni with tomatoes and bacon grease. No bacon? No problem. The grease was enough. You'd boil elbow macaroni, drain it, then toss it in a skillet with a spoonful of leftover bacon grease. Add a can of diced tomatoes, juice and all, and let it all simmer together. It was smoky, tangy, and somehow both rich and light. Some folks added a pinch of sugar to balance the acidity. Others just kept it simple with salt and pepper. One pan, a handful of ingredients, and dinner was done. Kids loved it. Adults took seconds. Nobody complained. 4th Kraft Mac and Cheese, 1937. This one was a game changer. In 1937, Kraft launched boxed mac and cheese, and it flew off shelves. For just a few cents, families could feed 4 people a hot, cheesy meal in minutes. You just boiled the pasta, mixed in the cheese powder, a splash of milk and butter, and it was done. It was creamy, comforting, and made entirely from pantry items. Even today, it's still a go-to. But during the Great Depression, it was revolutionary. These weren't fancy dinners, but they got the job done. They fed tired workers, stretched tight budgets, and reminded families that simple food could still be real good. In today's world, maybe we could learn a thing or two from them. Because good food doesn't have to cost much, just a little time and a lot of heart. If this brought back memories or inspired you to try one, let me know in the comments. And hey, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more forgotten wisdom from the past. Until next time, keep it simple, keep it frugal, and keep cooking from the heart.